Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy. How's it going today?
Good morning. Going well. Middle of February now, and winter is in full steam in New Hampshire.
What's it like there?
Well, I tell you again, we taped this early, but this past weekend we had, what did they call it? The bombogenesis, nor'easter,
the nor'easter,
whatever.
the bomb. They call it the bomb.
It was pretty crazy. We didn't get actually where we're at. I would say it's really hard to tell. We got maybe 8 inches, so not a lot, but it was so like when we plowed the driveway out, it felt like 6 or 7 inches there. When I went to dig out the hot tub, it felt like 2 feet because the wind had been so strong that the drifts were crazy. However, just an hour south of us, Caleb down at Gordon and Wyndham, Mass, they had 21 inches, and Boston got over 2 feet. So it was a pretty crazy weekend. A lot of digging out, a lot of snow blowing, and then crazy cold temperatures afterwards. So, and then another storm coming up this weekend. So just it is winter in New England. This is how it goes. This is why you see so many New Englanders on February vacation go south and get warm, and then again on April vacation go south and get warm. So
what's the temperature like up there?
You know what? Let me look, and I will tell you today what it is. It is currently 2 degrees. Oh no, that was yesterday's or this morning. So now it's all the way. It's up to 30 now. So this morning it was 2 degrees, felt like -8.
Heat wave,
It
right?
is up to a balmy 30. It's funny though, because it's all relative. When it does this, yesterday afternoon it got up to like 27, and I went out and walked the dogs without a coat. It felt phenomenal because there was no wind chill factor, and all of a sudden that felt like a heat wave. So, it's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah.
You know this. Colorado's no foreigner to
No, we get
cold weather.
We've had snow twice last week, and then we're going to have again tomorrow. Another storm coming in, but actually, we're actually happy because we need moisture.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Colorado, a little bit different from where you are, it snows. Within a day, it's usually the roads are all completely dry.
Yeah.
And so there's not any lingering issues.
Right.
And then within a few days, down in Denver, remember we're on the elevation we have. It's called Mile High City,
Right.
because we're at 5280 is where we start.
Right.
My house, we live in Castle Rock. We're one of the highest points along the Front Range, literally, and particularly in Castle Rock. But we're at elevation about 6,800 feet. So we get more snow, generally speaking, because it's going to be a little bit colder and it comes over the mountain. But because of where we are, it's called below snow line. So snow line is about, I think around 8,000 feet, which means you're up into the mountain. So that's why the ski resorts, their snow stays because they're above snow line.
Right.
Well, we're below snow line, so we'll have the snow. It'll be there. Could even be literally a foot or so. Within a few days, it's literally gone.
Wow.
And it's
now,
warm because
we're back
to 50, 60 degrees during the day, and we don't have. It would be rare, and once in a while we do. We'll have 2 or 3 or 4 days of cold. What we would call cold would be 10 degrees or less.
Right.
Once in a while we get that, but generally speaking, we'll get the cold, get the snow. Next couple of days, it's back to being 40, 50, 60 degrees. So And I know that's
Now,
different than you.
our road crews are phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as it stops snowing, you can get out there in New Hampshire, and they've got you covered. So it doesn't have to slow you down, except in the middle of the conditions.
Yeah.
So they're good. But once it gets on the ground, you can pretty much count on not seeing grass again until spring.
Right.
And we hit the mud season when it all melts off at the same time, and it gets a little ugly.
I can imagine. Well, we were talked about. We actually had a good question last time about, is the covenant real?
Mm-hmm.
And what?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. I like that.
It seems like some people even in Scripture didn't experience it. But we talked about that. The one thing that and again we're in Psalm 145 as we're summarizing this series of overcoming worry, fear, and anxiety, is why can we overcome it? Because God will overcome it. He doesn't say that I absolve you or remove you or even just come in and don't have you experience trouble, difficulty, things that you are going to say,
right.
I wonder about this. What's going to happen to this? Particularly for the broader Christian community, because, and I see this a lot and I hear this a lot, is, well, you talk about God resolving it, but I have a lot of friends or a lot of people in the church, I don't see it resolved for them. Matter of fact, it just seems to get worse.
Right.
So what do you mean by that? Well, again, remember, it's life with God, and he says this happens in my kingdom.
Right. And it's by invitation.
It's by
but
invitation.
We have to actually accept the invitation.
He says everybody, I offer it to everybody. So he says, and he even says this in Scripture, he's not partial.
Right.
In all the promises, this is in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, all the promises of Christ are yes.
Yes and amen.
For everybody. So I will resolve this. But you have to come, seek me, surrender your will to mine. We talked about going through Gethsemane. And let me guide you, because let me be the king, and I have an answer for you. And by the way, I will absolutely 100% resolve this issue that you've got in reality. So you're not going to be lingering with, I need to put up with this. No, you don't. God says, let me resolve it. And this is, remember, we're part of life, and we've experienced this. You get resolution. And we say you're gonna testify of my mighty, wondrous deeds.
Right.
And then he says, guess what? You got another one.
Right.
And then you got another one. Because that's life, see? So it's not like, okay, hallelujah, got it resolved, and now I'm never going to have...
Now I'm on easy street.
I'm easy street. It's no, you're going to be in a world that's going to constantly throw stuff at you. And we need God to resolve them all, which he says, I don't want you to go to you figuring this out, making it worse, and living in fear, worry, and anxiety, but rather learn to come to me. Because guess what? I'm going to resolve it, and we can trust it. So that if we've experienced that, you've experienced that, all we can tell people is it's real, it's a promise, you can trust it. And what we would like to help you do is, how do you get there? How do you get to that place? And the simplicity is, what do you have to say about this?
Right.
What instruction do you have for me? What wisdom? And by the way, it's given step by step by step. We just did a retreat of a group in Denver, and they've learned abiding. They've learned discerning God's will. We did this addendum to God's will, which was taking Bible characters and say, here's how it worked for them, so we could demonstrate that to them. And we spent a lot of time on their stuff. And interesting enough, what stuff do they want to spend time on? The stuff that's difficult.
Right, right.
The things that are, boy, this doesn't seem to be working. I wonder how's this going to work? I got a big decision. I want to follow God's will. And what God says is, well, remember, it's step by step by step. He says, and this is, you and I have talked about this, see, from his perspective, he says we are his inheritance. He loves being with us,
Right.
which is in a way why he does it step by step by step. Because if we, and part of the problem that the group had was, they were leaping to answer. Just give me
the solution.
Just give me the answer. And it wasn't happening. And God says, yeah, because I want to spend time with you.
I want the journey.
And I want you to walk with me and enjoy the journey as I deliver things. It will get resolved. And by the way, when I resolve that one, guess what? You got a few more that you'll be on the journey of. And that's the way life's going to be. But they could testify already. They could say, yeah, I could understand that. And they bore witness to, yeah, we had an issue, God resolved it. We had an issue, God resolved it. Do you recognize that that's what he wants to do all the time? And trust him that he goes there. So he tells us, how beautiful this is. And he makes a statement we've talked about that, my kingdom is everlasting. You shall speak of the glory of the kingdom. You will tell of the mighty deeds because it's true. And if you will, go back to verse 14 in Psalm 145 and just read 14 through the end of the chapter, and we'll talk a little bit about what he says here as we conclude this series. But go ahead and read that. The Lord upholds.
The Lord upholds all who are falling and raises up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them their food in due season. You open your hand, you satisfy the desire of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways and kind in all his works. The Lord is near to all who call on him in truth. He fulfills the desire of those who fear him. He also hears their cry and saves them. The Lord preserves all who love him, but the wicked he will destroy. My mouth will speak the praise of the Lord, and let all the flesh bless his holy name forever and ever.
Yeah. So he says he's going to uphold those who fall, and it's implying, well, yeah, you're going to, you would like, our heart would be, oh, just keep me on a nice, easy path.
Right.
And never have me fall down, never have me stumble, never have me have difficulty. He says, no, I'm going to uphold you, and you are going to fall. I'm going to raise up those who are bowed down. The eyes of all look expectantly to you. And he says, you satisfy the desire of every living thing. And then he says it down there. He says, I will fulfill the desire of those who fear him. And we'll talk about that. Okay, now when you're in trouble, and you're experiencing something that you have worry, fear, and anxiety about, what is your desire?
For it to be resolved.
Yeah.
Is that to go away?
And see, he doesn't say two things. He doesn't say deny it. Well, I should just put up with it, and I'm going to just kind of ignore what's really happening. But interesting enough, your heart will not let you. So.
Right.
And you really can't. You can try to, which is where a lot of people go. Is, well, I'll just say, I guess I should just accept this, and I won't even think about it. I'll try not to think about it. And he doesn't say that. He says, yeah, I want you to bring it up. It's real, and you have this reaction to it. It's okay that you have it. The second thing he says is, and this is where I see a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people. They pray, God, just make it so I don't have this trouble.
Right.
Just take it away.
Just take it away. We've heard that a lot with COVID, right?
Yeah, with
just
COVID.
Take it away.
Just take it away. So, you're sovereign, you're powerful, you're able. So just solve the problem, even in a global way. Of just don't have it. And as I've talked to people, particularly about COVID, and I just listened to a podcast about coronavirus, and they reiterated that a couple things. We've had it for a century. Coronavirus has been here every single year, and every single year it mutates.
Right.
And they said, we're experiencing. They said, interesting enough, we're experiencing a lot of people around the world getting this Omicron.
Right.
But it mutated, and by the way, it's going to mutate again. And they said, don't let the system define it for you that this is a death, virus. It's not. it's coronavirus. Guess what? It's going to migrate. It's going to mutate again.
Right.
We'll have it again next year, because that's the way it's always been. So when people say, get rid of COVID, and God says, well, no, you're in a world that has coronavirus. And just like, and I try to help people with this, is that, well, if you ask them to just get rid of that, then why don't you keep going?
Right.
And ask them to get rid of heart disease, and ask them to get rid of lung disease, and get rid of cancer. And, come on, if you're going to ask them to take care of that, well, why don't you just have them clean it all up?
Right.
And of course, God's answer is no. You live in a wicked world. Adam and Eve handed over the authority of that world to Satan, who still has it. It's entropy, disease, sickness, illness, virus is still going to be there. So he said, as you're experiencing trouble, he says, don't ask me to globally just remove all trouble from the world, because that's not going to happen until the very end.
Right.
You're going to be, and that's why Jesus said, in the world you're going to have trouble. But he says, I will satisfy the desire of every living thing. I'm going to fulfill the desire of those who fear him. So again, he says, what is your desire? Well, I got an issue, I got a problem, I got something that's causing me trouble. I'm looking to you to resolve it. He says, I will. I'll resolve it for you, and I'll do it supernaturally, and I'll get you to the right place at the right time. And so I'm going to speak to this, and I'm going to have you follow my instruction to receive there. And he says, who are the people that are going to have this happen to? He says, those who call upon him, because we know who to call on. I got a problem. I'm calling on you to take care of it. He says, to all who call upon me in truth. Okay, what is it? Well, your will, not mine. There's a truth about that. Let me surrender to that, and show me the truth. And the
So that's actually talking about seeking his truth.
Seeking his truth. Call upon me in truth, seeking the truth. What is the truth? What's happening here? What do you have to say about this? What do you have to do, so that, like I think I talked about this in our business. We have to deal with state pharmaceutical boards, and we have ones that are kind of opposing, and they're not rational, and there's a problem there, because it prevents us from doing certain things if the board doesn't sanction what you say. And when you have opposition, it's not like, well, just take care of it. It's, well, what do you have to say about this? And what is your instruction to what you want us to pray, believe, take a step, write this letter, go show up at a hearing? What is it that you're saying about that? And we're calling to him. In other words, what's the truth? And see, the truth is unique. It's not universal. Like, well,
right.
Just solve all the state board issues. Well, each one is unique. There's a truth about that.
He can be very specific in how he leads you.
It'll be very specific. Let me guide you with the right attorney, with the right approach. I will resolve it. And of course, when we're in the middle of it, well, yeah, but it's not getting resolved. I'm gonna trust me. I've got a timing to this. I've got truth to this. Call out to me in truth. I'm going to fulfill a desire of those who fear me, and fear me means I believe what you have to say.
Right.
And it will happen. What's my desire? Resolve this for me in my situation. And he says, I'll hear your cry and save you. Remember, I'm going to preserve you. And the word there is resolve things for you. The wicked meaning I don't have a heart to follow God. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to take care of that. Don't worry. Because that's where a lot of the opposition comes, from wickedness. Right. People who don't have, they have power, and they're going to exercise that power.
And they're not following God.
And they're not following God, and they're coming against us. And God says, don't worry, I'm going to take care of them, and they're cursed because they don't have a heart to me. By the way, the remedy for reversing the curse is what?
Repentance.
Repentance.
Yeah.
So I'd like you, Rich, to pray. Don't get. Remember, you're not dealing with flesh and blood. You're dealing with powers and principalities, and there's things behind it that are prompting them to be self-centered and against you.
Right.
Now, if they continue and they don't have a heart to follow, they're going to get destroyed. You can count on it. Now, your prayer would be that they would see the light and repent, because if they do, they can reverse the curse and be blessed and step into the place that you've stepped into.
Restoration, yeah.
They can be restored themselves. So trust me, I'm going to do this. And he said, I will satisfy the desire of everything, all the time, every time, as you fear me, as you trust me, as you believe me, and you walk with me, and how do you do that? He said, well, call out. So, and when he says call out, when he's implying that you're in trouble, what are you calling out? What are you saying when you call out?
You're calling out and asking him, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah.
It's crying out to him for his wisdom and his insight and everything.
Yeah, I can't do this. What you're saying is I can't do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Left alone in the natural, which is why we go to worry, fear, and anxiety.
Right.
It probably is going to be a negative outcome or a worse outcome or something I could see happen that in the natural is going to happen. And he says, yeah, I know. That's why I need you to call out to me and seek me, and that's why he says you'll testify of my mighty, miraculous deeds, because I'll do it.
Right.
And you can trust me that I'll do it. So that I just have an individual that is a friend of the ministry, and he had contracted a stage 4 cancer. This is like 12 years ago. And a stage 4 cancer it's called metastasize, and it's gone into your lymph nodes,
spread everywhere,
and it's spread throughout your body. And at that moment, the natural, even the doctors say, well,
this is it.
Yeah, this is it. And we don't know how long you got to live, but we'll try to make it as easy as possible. But if you've reached that stage, the chances of you being healed is in their mind slim and none, because in the natural you don't. Well, this individual went to and he gathered, and this is, remember what we talked about is the inner circle,
right?
Your sacred assembly. When you have trouble, particularly when it looks like the outcome is this will never work,
right?
Well, call out to God, but you do that together, and you call your sacred assembly. You call
with other people who want to seek God with you,
who have a heart to seek God.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that we went into it and we're just going to assume that God's going to heal you, because again, we could say, well, this could be the way that you transition. Remember we talked about martyrdom yesterday and death, that, well, God could say, and I've heard,
At some point it will come.
I've had God say this to certain situations where people are sick or whatever. He said, well, actually, I'm bringing you home. Well, you don't pray that he's healing, because he said, I'm not gonna.
Right.
There's going to be a moment where, no, you're going to come home, and he could be saying that. And so we went into it together with, well, what do you have to say about this? Including, are you taking him home?
Right.
And he said, no, I'm going to heal it. And I'll completely heal it. And remember, when he says healing, he doesn't say, I'll make it so you feel a little bit better.
He says heal.
I'm gonna remove the cancer from the body. Okay. So we pray about that, and we say, we believe it. Give us the faith to believe it. You spoke it. We're coming around this person. We're going to stand with them. Hey, the question we said to him, do you believe it?
Right.
And he processed it. It's a little bit of a struggle, but I'm willing to receive it. And he stayed with it. And yes, I believe it. His wife believed it. We believed it. He got healed. Completely healed. And of course, you can, physically and medically, he would go and got tested.
Right.
So it wasn't even, well, yeah, he healed me, but he really didn't. It's, well, did you really heal me?
Right. Right.
And he really got tested and he got healed. There's
That's beautiful.
no cancer anywhere in his sight. Okay, so here it is. I think it's 12 years later, 12, 13 years later. And he calls me up and says, hey, it's reoccurred. I've got some things that have reoccurred. I said, well, what have you learned? Cry out.
Right.
Call your sacred assembly.
Ask God what he has to say about it.
Let's go ask him again. And remember, we're he's older now. So guy could just be saying, well, yeah, but I'm taking you home. But we just said,
and this is how, yeah.
We're going to call out, we got a problem here. And what do you got to say about that? And God comes again and says, I'm going to heal it again.
Wow.
Now, by the way, it's just stage one. It's just kind of there, and I'm going to heal it again. And last time, it was completely supernatural. So there wasn't even any therapy that took place.
Wow.
He was supernaturally healed. And we said, and again, this is key as you process God's resolution. You don't even say, well, because you did it before, I'm assuming you're doing that again, right?
Right. Because again, you have to ask, okay, how? What's my next step? What do you have to say now?
What do you have to say now, and what's our step? And it was, I'm going to heal you. Well, what do you have to say? How? What do you want me to do? He says, there's a therapy that I want you to take, and that, with my power, is going to heal you, and so be faithful to that. So he does, and he's got to go to a cancer center, and he's got to get this therapy. And they said, probably we'll give you 6 or 7 of these, and it should take care of it. So come and be faithful, and God says, yep, go and be faithful. So this is just recent. He's finished his 3rd one.
Okay.
And he says, and they test him every time.
Right.
He says, they came to him and said, it's over. It's done. You're out. It's all taken care of.
Wow.
You don't need to come back for the 4th, 5th, 6th one, 7th one. You're done. You're completely free of cancer again. And what God said, and this time he said, I want you to do it this way. But he prolonged the same thing. Didn't go to worry, fear, and anxiety. I mean, it certainly concerned him.
Right.
Well, this isn't pleasant.
Right. And it's natural that it would concern him.
Yeah.
But that's the invitation to go to God.
And he didn't get discouraged. He didn't go to, how could you possibly, after I've been healed, have this come back? He's learned, well, I got a problem. Yeah, I've got a little concern here. I've got a little fear. I've got a little worry. What do you have to say about it? And he says, here's my answer. Here's what I want you to do. He does. He lived in release from the fear, worry, and anxiety because he had already experienced what God had said. And he didn't presume the answer of what God was going to do.
Right.
It's, well, what do you have to say about this time? Now, he's getting older. There's going to be a moment, and this is what our conversation is kind of yesterday, is, whether it be the cancer or something else, he gets an illness or sickness, what do you say about that? God's going to say, well, actually, I'm bringing you home. And see, that's going to be true for all of us. So we can't presume healing and say, well, of course God's going to heal you. I mean, if that's true, if you think about the simplicity of that, if God healed all the time everybody forever, well, we'd live forever.
Right.
He says, well, that's not so. There's a moment where I'm not going to heal you. I'm going to bring you home. Okay. And by the way, at that moment, he says, what? Rejoice. And Paul says, hey, to me,
I have great things ahead for you.
Yeah, to die is gain. That's great with me. No problem with me. Let's rejoice. Let's celebrate, the life of it. So, but in this case, it was, no, I'm going to heal you. And he did. He's doing it again. By him following the process. God said, I'm going to satisfy your desire. You got a problem. What's your desire? What are you going to do to resolve this? Come to me, trust me, listen to me, process with me, get people around you. What we're calling the sacred assembly, or your inner circle, and this ideally would be your spouse and your family, and then your close friends. That we come together, and we're going to lift you up, not with a presumptive prayer. God, would you make sure it's, what do you have to say?
Right.
Let us hear it. And by the way, if there's sin in the camp, or there's a roadblock, or you shared about Justin and Andrea that were on the podcast last week on the 10th. They learned abiding, and one of the things God said, and they had already experienced some really wonderful things in their life, but he said, hey, by the way, honey, you're carrying unforgiveness in your heart.
Right.
If you want to experience the fullness of life, I need to resolve.
You got to let me work this.
You got to let me work this. And of course, she received it, processed it through, abided through it, and received it. Because see, God, our desire, and this is going to be important as we try to understand this. We got a problem. What's our desire? Take care of it.
Resolution right away. Yep.
He says, I'll do it. But I'm going to walk you into it. And while I'm walking you into it, he says, my desire, and this is from God speaking to us, is to give you life and give it to you super abundantly. So that if there's something going on in your heart, and you're experiencing this with Dan, has had a little bit of a prolonged process with COVID, and God spoke something. Hey, I'm trying to show you something through this. Do you have a heart to receive it?
Right.
Yes, I do. So it's not like, we'll just take care of it. God says, well, my desire, I am going to take care of it. I'm going to satisfy your desire. But in the meantime,
there's something in the process.
There's something that's going on in your life that I'm using this to bring attention to. Do you have a heart to receive it? And my desire, is to give you freedom, so that a lot of people who say, I can't imagine how come God hasn't resolved my problem so far. And I said, well, have you heard, what he had to say?
Right.
Even sometimes, I've heard what he had to say, but I want him to resolve it, and then I'll process it.
Right.
And he says, no, I'm not going to release you from this until you process what I've been giving you, which could be around forgiveness, or could be around trust, or could be around something that I'm asking you to receive. And he says, I love you too much to let it go, because if I did,
to leave you in that place.
See, if I resolved your issue without you letting me resolve what I have for your heart, you'll go off with that damaged heart.
Right. And in fact, even when you were talking yesterday about covenant, blessed to be a blessing, part of that, as he resolves it, that is a blessing that then we take forward and bless others with, as we walk them through how he resolved, and how they lean into him to have their problems resolved.
Yeah. And when you say that, describe that a little bit further. So what are you exactly talking about there? About, well, through my processing and him resolving it for me, I then become a blessing to somebody else. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, on several levels. Sometimes it's simply, I think about in my ladies group on Tuesday, when we'll share very openly about different things that we are abiding on, and that God is teaching us and resolving, and the journey of the whole thing. And sometimes what we share truly is simply an encouragement to somebody else that ends up kind of getting banked. I say, they put it in their back pocket, and then it is resurfaced when God wants to use that as a true teachable moment for them, and it'll come back up. But there are other times when literally somebody's in the middle of something and we can come alongside and say, I have experienced something extremely similar to this, and I know that God can meet you in this place. I had a friend who lost her mother recently, and so having walked through grief and knowing God
Yeah.
as comforter,
Yeah.
I am better equipped to lead her, not to, I mean, yes, I comfort her as being a friend, but it's really to take her to his feet and introduce her to him as comforter, because I know how he met me. I can take her to the scriptures and show her, and let him meet her in that place, but it's because I've experienced it.
Yes.
And so sometimes, like I said, it's something that you tuck away in your pocket and it comes back up, and it's you bank it for a little while. And other times it's literally just a complete flow through. I have experienced this. And so I'm going to walk beside you in the mess and keep coming to the Father's feet, because I believe for you that he's going to resolve this.
Yeah.
And let's go together.
Right. Right. And that's how it works. And in terms of you giving it away, being a blessing, is that, you experienced him in a beautiful way about something very specific in your life. There's other people experiencing similar, like you say, similar things.
Right.
And God, brings them across our path.
Yeah.
And they may not, and a lot of times for me, it's just, they're just speaking. I'm struggling.
Right.
I'm struggling with. I'm having this issue. Woe is me. I'm sad. I'm this. I'm that. And see, God says, "Well, hey, Rich, you know something about this,
Right.
Would you be willing to say to them, I understand. I know you're in fear. We're in anxiety, and I know, because of what's happened in my life and others that I've seen, that God will restore this, resolve this for you, and I'll walk with you." Like you say, let me walk with you. So it's not that I have an answer for her or him. I don't have that answer. I don't know how. I can't say this is like the guy that just got the revisiting of cancer.
Right.
I can't say, oh, well, of course. You just pray and God will take care. No. Let's go together. Let's go seek him. What does he have to say about this? What is his instruction? I'm going to walk with you through it, but I'm doing it out of the life that I've experienced. I'm not saying, yeah, I doubt if that'll happen.
Right.
And I guess you're going to suffer, and that's God's will. And it's no, let's go together. And the resolution, and this is what I've just would like to share with everybody, is it's clever, it's different, it's unique, and it's based upon, and this is important, it's based upon other people's free wills. So that if, like for example, we have these boards, pharmaceutical boards, some people are heading them up, and they're power hungry. And
so that's going to impact things.
You present, here's the truth, here's what we're doing, we're happy to cooperate with you. And because they're power hungry, it's like, I don't care, I'm going to come against you anyway. Well, that's not how I thought it was going to be resolved.
Right.
But given their free will, God invited that person to say, would you be reasonable? No. Okay, Father, now what do you have to say about that? He said, I'll bring you solution. Now I've got to tell you more wisdom. I've got to tell you the next step based upon what just happened, so that it's always, what about now? And what I'm not going to try to presume and or say, well, God, just change it. He says, well, that guy's not changing. Or your family that you're having trouble with, they're not gonna stop hurting you.
Right.
But let me resolve it in a unique way, and I'm going to get you to freedom. I'm going to get you to resolution based upon what? And that's what he says in here. You keep pursuing the truth. Yeah. Well, what's the truth? What's the truth? Knowing, he says, I'm going to fulfill your desire, which is what? Resolution. And you'll rejoice at that. There's no time frame to it.
Right.
There's no absoluteness in terms of steps that you always follow these steps. It's as we're trying to summarize this session that we've been going through. It is going to happen. You can trust me. Come to me. Walk with me. Bring others with you. Trust the covenant. Trust the process. I'm going to fulfill it, and walk with me. And Kathy and I are saying to you, if you have something very specific, even now, that you're not sure of, which is, by the way, what I did, Linda and I did with our retreat last weekend, is they all had issues.
And we all do.
And we all do. And what we did was let us help you uniquely start to understand, where are you in the process? What is God saying? What's the step? Relax. Enjoy the journey. And we're happy to help you see something that maybe you don't see. And that's the kind of things that we can do. And we're willing to do it.
Right.
It can be very specific to you. So if you got something, feel free to send it in. And again, on our YouTube, there's comment section, or the email, questions@afjministry.com, questions@afjministry.com. And you can send it in and be very specific, and we'll get back to you, and either use it as an opportunity on air to describe something, or we'll just do it personally back to you without even being on air. So we're happy to see it. But as we conclude this series, we're just saying He's going to resolve it.
Yes.
Don't stay in worry, fear, and anxiety. Starting out there, it's natural. It's normal. He says, I understand it. That's why you even go to Him. It's like,
Right.
Hey, I got a problem. Yep, I know. Come to me and bring people with you, and let me walk you into it, so that quickly you can release worry, fear, and anxiety. And your focus, and this is what God says, is I need your focus on following me into the resolution. I can't afford for you to be discouraged. I can't afford for you to go backwards.
Don't stay focused on the problem.
Or get stuck.
Step into what I asked.
Step into it. And of course, the one story that everybody can relate to is, Peter, hey, if that's you, Christ, call me to come out to you. Yeah, come on out. So he has the faith to get out of the boat. And he starts walking on water. And of course, what happens? What does he turn from? Instead of looking at Jesus,
looking at the storm instead of Jesus.
Like, this is too much. I'm not supposed to be walking on water, and this ain't gonna work. And he sinks.
Right.
Now, interesting enough, when he sank, what happened?
Well, Jesus came in and He picks him up. Yeah, honestly, just like the Psalm says, those who are falling.
Yeah, those that are falling, I pick up. He grabs him and says, focus on me, and learn, trust that, you just failed because you looked at the circumstance, not at me. But let me show you something, and come on. And here's a cool part of the story that a lot of people don't appreciate, is he walks back to the boat.
Right.
Well,
which
how?
in and of itself is a miracle.
Yeah,
he
how?
literally, by Jesus, he's holding Jesus' hand, and Jesus walks him back supernaturally.
He walks him back to the boat. And why? How? Because he said, I'm with you. Right. Yes, I am with you. I grab hold of you, and you grabbed hold of me, and I'm with you. And he had to walk back on the water to get back to the boat, which is Jesus saying, just come with me, focus on me, trust me. And of course, with Peter, even through the 3 years, and he experienced that, the next time he had a little struggle, and Jesus said, ye have little faith, but stay with me, stay with me, stay with me.
As you share that, I'm reminded of an image that God gave me. I had heard a sermon, and they were talking about this very story, and in this sermon, the pastor brought up the fact that a lot of times when we picture Jesus and Peter, when Peter got his eyes off Jesus and starts to sink, we picture the disappointment of Jesus. Like, we think he was so disappointed in Peter. And as he was talking about this, almost like, one of those things where God just takes your heart out of, I don't even know what the rest of what he said was, but God really gave me a vision of, that's not my father heart. I want you to see my father heart. Remember when your children were toddlers and they took the first step? When they took a step and they stumbled, you didn't look at them in disappointment and condemnation.
Right.
Instead, you cheered what they did, and you
Yes.
picked them up and you encouraged them to take the next step.
Yeah.
Because you knew what was ahead when they learned to take the succession of keeping their eyes on you and walking what you had for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the picture he wanted me to grasp, is I am not sitting in disappointment as you fall. I'm sitting there cheering you on. You took a step, take another one. Let's do this together. Eyes on me, because I have so much more ahead of you if you'll follow me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I, we were talking with Justin and Andrea after we taped them, and you talked about we have a common interest, bicycling, road biking, and I was reminded of think Rich, how you became able to ride a bicycle. Is that you started out and you couldn't do it,
right?
And basically your mom and dad knew you're gonna fall.
Right.
That's part of learning, and then as you learned it, they, like you said, they weren't discouraged,
right,
or upset that
they
kind of know you're
trying.
gonna fall. Okay, get up and do it again. Get up and do it again, and do it this way, and then ultimately, you learned how to do it, so that and it's something that's interesting. And bicycling, I think, is an illustration of that. I'm a road race biker, so I go fast. But this is cool. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you never
don't unlearn that.
You never forget it. You got
right.
it. You have it. You're able to. You've learned it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're trying to say here is we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you got a problem. Yes, you have an issue. You got something that's burdening you. He says, "Come unto me, and I'll give you rest. Come and learn of me. Take my yoke upon you, and I will give you rest for your soul. I'm going to resolve it to the depth level. Trust me, trust me, trust me." And once you learn it, which is what you and I have done, we've learned it. Do we still have trouble? Yep. What do we have to do? We got to go through the same process, but we know he's going to do it, and we can trust it. And we've learned how to walk into that. So we encourage everybody to just go back if you have to through the series, and keep remembering. If you're stuck on something, don't get discouraged. Don't stay discouraged, but get your sacred assembly around you. Start seeking God, and trust what he has to say, and he will bring resolution.
And he will grow your faith as you go too. So trust that also. He even works that side of it.
So tomorrow we have another guest coming up, actually Morgan.
Yes, a young lady, single mom, sweet, beautiful story that she has to share.
That's going to be a great story. And then we'll do End Times Friday, which we're ending the end of that process, and then we'll do that continually. But next week, we're going to do a mini series on abiding, just to remind people of some key elements. And it's always interesting. We teach people over and over and over again what it means to abide. They do, and then they have a few things where when you say, "Are you enjoying it?" Not really.
Oh, wait a second.
They kind of drifted a little bit. So we're going to come back and talk about the drift and how to make sure that you enjoy the abiding process, which is important about this process. And then after that, we're going to get into the covenant and discuss that. So that'll be fun. So
excellent. Looking forward to it.
Let us know, people, any comments about this series, and we look forward to the next one.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and have a blessed day. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, amen. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.